Whether you call it criticism or judgment, this kind of feedback never feels good. But what do you do when you're dealing with someone who always seems to be belittling, condemning, or finding fault with everything you say or do? When the feedback feels harsh or disapproving, how do you say something without sounding defensive? Well, today you'll learn why people are critical and my top 5 strategies to gain peace and boundaries in the face of criticism and judgment. So stay tuned. Well, there you are. Welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. I am your host. You know who I am, Dr. Abby Medcalf. You can just call me Abby. You know, for anyone who writes in, I love when you write in. Just say Abby. You don't have to call me Dr. Abby. We're not like that. So it's just Abby. You know, Dear Abby sounds kind of cute. Has a flow. I do love getting your questions. Abby at abbymedcalf.com, or go to the Let's Connect page on my website, abbymedcalf.com. It's all Abby Medcalf. It can't be easier. And just a reminder, I cannot answer personal questions as far as, give me advice about what to do with me and my husband. Here's all the problems. First of all, I don't have time to read. I get lots of emails, as you might imagine. I don't have time to read when you write a really long thing. I love you dearly, and I know you love me, so be respectful of my time as I am with yours. So please don't write in. And it's just not ethical. I don't know all the information. I can't just flip off a response. I really try when, if you write in about something and I think I can help in the moment as far as like referring you to a podcast or something or an episode, I always take the time to do that. But if you're asking like, I'm really depressed, what do I do? I can't respond to that. It's unethical. I need to repeat, it's unethical. I know in these days and times people get on social media and they just answer things and whatever. Again, unethical. So I don't do that because that's not how I roll. What I will do is if you write in with a topic like today was sparked by an email. I will absolutely cover it as a topic if I think it's something that a lot of people will relate to. And that's how I do it. But otherwise, be cool with that. Okay. Hopefully that was clear. All right. I just want to, I want us all on the same page. We're in a relationship together and we need to be on the same page. So today's episode really was sparked by an email I recently received. And what the person said, it was a woman's name, I'm assuming. It seemed like a common female name, but I shouldn't assume, I guess. But I'm going to say she. She said, I love my spouse's curiosity for life, but I also know he grew up in a very critical household. So sometimes his questioning comes across as or turns into what feels like criticism. And I'm not always sure, the best way to respond. It's hard not to take it personally sometimes. And that was there's a good example of an email that I'll respond to or say, yes, I'll put it in the queue for the episodes of the podcast. I think it was a really good one and got me really thinking because I've covered this topic in different kinds of ways, in 200 plus episodes that we've had. I think this is 233. I've covered a lot of ground, people. I have really, there's very little I haven't talked about. And if you do a search on the website, you'll see. There's just every podcast and every blog is, of course, on the website. And when I put in criticism into my own website, like 10 things came up. So I've done a lot on it, but I've never talked about it in the way I am today. Always, when I'm doing something, I don't just regurgitate, repost something. I gather the information, I see what I think about it. Then I see what I've written. And if there's things I can take, little pieces here or there, but I always make sure there's a new spin or a new way I'm talking about it or new information that I didn't have, 2 years ago when I wrote something or 3 years ago, whatever, that I have now. So, but I will say this, the way that she wrote that I really like and it's why I was very careful with my title of today's episode, what to do when you feel like you're being criticized. Because just because it feels to you like someone is being critical or judgmental, it doesn't mean that that's an absolute truth. What do I say all the time? Feelings aren't facts. Your feelings aren't facts. They're your feelings. And I love your feelings and I love you, but they're not facts. So but I feel your pain, and I'm gonna get to strategies to use, right? I want you to have strategies to see critical people in hopefully a kind of a new light, and obviously effective ways to deal with those people. And I want you to also take ownership that, just because you say it's criticism doesn't mean it necessarily is. And I'm going to give some good examples, I hope, of that today that you can relate to. But and in some level, it doesn't kind of matter, because whether someone meant it as critical or not, you always have 100% responsibility in how you react. Again, which is why I really like that email. This listener was really letting me know, like, I get, hey, it's hard though, Abby. It's hard not to take it personally. It's hard not to let this hit me. And I'm with you. I'm human. It's hard for me too. So again, all the things I'm going to share today are tried and true methods I've used with my clients, and of course that I apply to my own life, that really work. So first, always, I want to say what we're talking about. What is criticism exactly? Because this is really important, and I think people don't really understand that. We're talking now about if someone's critical to you, but I have to tell you, you've been critical before. I've been critical before. We've all criticized other people, even if we don't mean it, even if we don't realize we're doing it. Because what is it exactly? What is criticism? Well, it's any time someone gives you criticism, okay, or feedback, however you want to use the word, what's happening is they're evaluating your words or actions against some specific standards that they believe in. Okay? So, in other words, they're judging you against what they believe is right or true. And I had a bunch of examples, so I'm going to give a few. So, this is a while ago now, but my wonderful Gary and I were out with a few other couples. And this is a long time ago, actually. I didn't know these people very well, either did he, but we didn't know these people very well. And one of the women, there was like 4 couples, and one of the women told this racist joke, like a racist joke. And I was actually shocked. I think I live in kind of a bubble where I don't have racists around me. I mean, I'm not shocked if I see it on the news or other places, you know what I mean? But like in my little, my people, that is not, I live in Northern California now, very liberal. I come from New York City, very liberal. Like it's weird. Anyway, so, but I was the hammer. I don't put up with that shit. So I immediately said something along the lines of like, that's racist. I'm not okay with racism. I don't care if it's a joke. And so that was criticism. I criticized her. You can say I didn't, but I did, because trust me, I've no doubt that she felt criticized. It was a little frosty there for a while. Other people were really uncomfortable, it was a whole thing. But if you're not racist, you might think, well, that wasn't criticism, Abby. You were just drawing a boundary, right? I'm just drawing a boundary. But I can assure you that, again, this woman felt criticized and judged by me. I have no doubt, because I was judging her. And I was absolutely, right? What was I doing? I was evaluating her words against specific standards that I believe in. Okay? And it didn't meet the standard, so I said something. I'll give you something a little closer to home, right? I just discussed this with a client last week. I noted it because I was already writing this podcast, and I was like, oh my God, I have to remember this. This is such an easy one. So this woman, her husband had cleaned the dishes after dinner, which he usually does. And, that's like their thing. She cooks, he cleans. That's not uncommon. But she came in the kitchen later that night and noticed that there was like kind of grease and food stuck to 2 of the cleaned, she put quotes around cleaned pots that were in the dish drainer. And when she told him, and she said, I saw it, and I still thought he did such a good job in the kitchen, and everything was really done. But, I then went and re-cleaned these because there's grease and dirt on, there was like little bits of food or something, or I think it was mostly grease. I think they had fried things, she said. Anyway, but so she said, I went so nice to him, and I said, hey, thank you. You did such a good job in the kitchen, and please, in the future, could you pay more attention? There was a lot of grease left on 2 of the pots. And he got really pissed. He blew up at her and said, things like, "You're always criticizing how I clean. It's never good enough, and if I do something with the kids, you criticize how I did it. It wasn't the way you like it. Just because it's the way you like it doesn't mean it's the only way." And she's sort of thinking, what do you mean? There's not a, like, cleaning means all the grease comes off like that. And I had to really stop her. I said, that's your standard. Other people are more comfortable with some grease and dirt or pieces of food. Like, that's his standard. And she said, well, he usually does it right, so it's not his standard. She did this whole thing. And I said, listen to your language, right. There's a right way. There's a standard I'm holding you to. And I said, frankly, if he always does it the right way, why'd you even say anything? You're not, like, if it happens as a pattern, I would have said something maybe, but not if it's usually right. And that's just an aside. If someone usually does something correct, the way you like it, and every now and then they mess it up, give people a mulligan, for God's sakes. Let it go. Really, you want to say something because you want it to change in the future. And if you don't need to worry about it changing in the future, because no one's perfect, you miss spots on your dishes too, everybody does, then why would you say anything? But that's an aside. So, but again, like, my client has standards around the dishes and thinks her husband is wrong when he doesn't meet them. That's criticism. No matter how nice she said it, no matter how patiently she said it. Now, I'm not saying he should have blown up about this. Obviously there was some issues here, and he brought in how he treats the kids, and he brought in a lot of other issues. So it was clear that he normally, though, feels criticized, like he doesn't do enough or do it well or do it right or whatever the words are. I do hear this a lot in relationships where the partner's like, I do the thing, but it's never good enough, so why even bother? That comes up a lot. So anyway, right? So, and I think I'm trying to, like, okay, because I want to give another kind of example. I think another thing that surprises people is when they're being, like, helpful and the person gets upset and says it's criticism, when they don't see it as I'm telling you you're wrong. They're just seeing it as trying to be helpful. So I have another client whose dad is diabetic, and he has not traditionally taken very good care of his diabetes. And she's often trying to give him helpful tips for eating better, looking at labels on food, for sugar, hidden sugars. And, she'll send him, she's trying to help. She sends little helpful articles about things. And she said to me something like, I'm just trying to help him, but he gets so defensive and says I'm always criticizing him. But I'm just trying to keep him alive and healthy. How is this criticism? I'm not, and people miss it. Once again, so my client has a standard around how diabetics should eat and act or whatever, and she's holding her dad to that standard. So I know you would argue, and I would argue too, that she has, science and doctors on her side about, but again, it doesn't matter to the receiver. You can be as right as you think. And I bet her dad would come up with 50 people who say, oh, my friend Joe has lived to 100 with diabetes and he ate sugar every day. You're always going to get those stories. So people believe, kind of what they want to believe sometimes. Or for whatever reason, her dad does believe it. He just doesn't want to do it. He just doesn't want to do it. I can remember with my dad, he used to say things like, well, when your number's up, your number's up. Like, if you're going to die, you're going to die. So you might as well enjoy yourself in the meantime, kind of thing. He didn't want to hear he should eat better or exercise or anything else. So this is, again, believe it or not, any time really you're giving someone quote unquote feedback in any of those kinds of ways, it's criticism by the definition that you are comparing them to another standard. Okay. Or them to you, like somehow they're comparing you to a standard. So sometimes I had someone who, this was a while ago, but I thought it was such a good one. The wife was in charge of like the front lawn, like the front of the house, like the gardening and all that. And her husband a few times said, well, I don't understand why you can't do the walkway like the Joneses down the street do it. And but again, and there's a comparison to a different standard, right? That's what that is. And she said, I feel so criticized by that, but I don't know why. Like he's not, he even would say it nicer than I just said it. He would say something like, oh, have you seen the Joneses did near, on their front walkway? It's so cool. Maybe we could do something like that here. He would say it just like that, which doesn't sound so critical or mean or anything. And she would get really defensive. And again, that, it goes to show it doesn't really matter how someone says something half the time. It's how we react. I'm going to talk about that in my tips. But I just want you to see that. But again, there's this idea that the Joneses have a higher standard and they're better. And now I'm getting compared. Usually criticism in some way has some comparison in it. And so in a big picture, there's 3 types of criticism, right? If you look at the research, again, I'll link to all that in the show notes on my website. Criticism falls into, it's like 3 basic categories you always see in the research. There's irrelevant, destructive, and constructive. And irrelevant criticism, that's the easiest one. That's the low-hanging fruit you should knock right off your list. These are the people, those people that are always critical to everyone. It doesn't matter what you say or do. They have something critical to say. And they really aren't your people. They're not, there's some it's a coworker maybe that she doesn't have any, or he doesn't have any control over you though. It's not, this is irrelevant. They can talk all they want. It doesn't really matter to you. So there's really no need to get yourself emotionally or mentally involved in what they're saying or doing. So you want to do your best to ignore irrelevant criticism. Consider the source. Is this someone who never has a good thing to say? Is this someone you even like or respect? It's like you've got to triage the criticism coming at you and make a decision about whether it's relevant and worthwhile. That's top of the list as far as I'm concerned. And I think people don't do it nearly enough. And I'll hear someone say something like, the lady at the grocery store said this thing to me, and I'm like, so what? Why are you even talking about that? It's so irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. So do your best to notice that and get rid of it. Now, destructive criticism is when someone is, attacking. It's often mean. The person making the comments, they're not trying to make you better or themselves or the situation better. There's no love-based emotions involved. Instead, they're really looking to put you down so they can feel superior or in control in some way. That's what's happening. This often happens when the other person, maybe they feel attacked in some way. They're looking to defend, dominate, again, gain control. It's always about control. And destructive criticism is really marked by low self-esteem. There's brittle egos here. There's low emotional intelligence, right? So with destructive criticism, it's your job to just draw boundaries, stop the conversation as quickly as possible. I'll get to the tips later for any kind of criticism, but that's really what you want to be thinking. And then when you look in the research about constructive criticism, there are basically, when someone's being constructively critical, there are 3 main requirements. One is that it's compassionate. So you believe the person giving you the feedback cares for you, that they respect you. It's specific. The feedback it's well-intentioned. It's again, specific. It provides some sort of explicit, individualized guidance for how to improve whatever the thing is. And the third thing is that it's a match. The whatever feedback you're getting, this criticism, is aligned with your own emotions, motivations, and that kind of thing. And I'd say that criticism is often rare in those. And I got to tell you, I'm saying the criticism all over. I don't even like the word. I feel like we use that word a lot, and it's really about feedback. Is the feedback healthy or not? I mean, that's really where I would put it all. But again, people wrote in about this criticism thing, so I'm talking about the criticism thing. But I think on an umbrella kind of way, I would love for you to think of it that way. If you're watching me on YouTube, you're seeing my really cool boss earrings. Okay, but if you're not, you're missing out. If you don't know, I'm on YouTube. I don't know if you like looking at me. It's I don't like looking at me, so I'm not looking at me when I record it, but I do record, and these go up on YouTube, and sometimes that's a way people feel more engaged, so party on. Anyway, so let's get to why people judge and criticize. So the number one reason I think is that they're fish who don't know they're wet. I love that saying. And I think most people judge and criticize, but they have no idea they're doing it. It's a habit they've adopted. And often it's something they've taken on from their family of origin. They grew up with it. So, their dad criticized their mom, or their sister would tell them that they were doing it wrong if it wasn't her way. So, they started doing it too because it seemed like the right way to act. Like it just was. It's just, this is how you do it. If someone says something, I'm supposed to comment on it. And I often comment in a negative way. Maybe you even think, maybe you heard things at home, you're getting too big for your britches. So I like to take you down a notch, make it real, something like that. It's terrible, but that's how people talk. So you think, oh, well, my dad loved me and he did that. So if I love my partner, I would talk to him or her that way. And that's how that happens. That's how that gets from an 8-year-old to a 38-year-old acting in the same way. So it's really not a conscious choice. Generally, it's just a way of being. It's part, again, of like a family culture. And you might think it's perfectly normal and acceptable to constantly give your opinion, even though you weren't asked, or to point out where someone could do something better. Better, of course, means your way, right? Again, even though you weren't asked, mansplaining is a great example. I love you, men. I love you all. I love you. I love you. About 25% of my listeners are men. I love every one of you listening. And I don't think you realize you're mansplaining most of the time. You think you're giving us maybe helpful suggestions, or that you should, or again, like that there's this idea you should just comment on things. This is part of a patriarchal society that sometimes men are really raised that well, with a lot of go get them, soldier. Like you should be chatting and telling people what's right and going out there and you're a leader or whatever. It's amazing. I have a son who, my Max is 19 now, and he's, I would say, very aware in the world. And he's really aware of like people's rights. And he's very Gen Z, very up in that. And he'll be funny. He'll be saying something sometimes to his sister and I, and he'll say, oh my gosh, I'm mansplaining, aren't I? I'm like, yes, that's what that is. Like, so he'll actually catch himself explaining. But, my beloved Gary's a mansplainer sometimes, or he'll just interject. Oh, no, that's not what it was. It's this, when I'm in the middle of a conversation, it's like, no one asked you, and it's fine. It is what it is. For me, I don't get charged up about it much. But it's not like I never get charged up. There's occasionally it really bugs me, but most of the time it really doesn't actually. I get what I need in most of the ways. So this is one of those things that's like, I kind of let go. But for any men listening, don't give us helpful suggestions. Don't think you should just comment on things, right? That's not, and I say with love, if I didn't ask, you don't need to give your 2 cents, period, end of. I can't, how many men have told me I need to smile when I'm walking by? Oh, you should smile. What? Fuck you. I cannot even believe, men still do this. Or, just walk up and comment on my clothing or how I look or my boobs or something. Like, it's crazy. It's so crazy. My car broke down not long ago. It didn't break, I got a flat tire, and I must have had 40 men coming in and out. I was parked near a Starbucks, so people were coming in and out. And no women commented. And it's not like women don't know what to do. I knew what to do. I called AAA. I was waiting for AAA. And, did you call? Are you okay? What's going on? It's like, leave me alone. I'm fine. I didn't ask. I didn't look like I was nervous or not sure what to do or, but people felt like, men felt like they should give me 2 cents about what should happen. And well, if you have something in there, we'll just, I'll jack up your car right now. It's like, I'm fine. I've called AAA. I already paid for it. It's all good. They're going to come fix it. I don't need you. You're a stranger. I don't know who you are. I don't want you up in my car or talking to me or anything else. So anyway, I know I went off on men. I love you, men. I really do. I do. I mean that. And yes, sometimes I want to smack some of you. But sometimes I want to smack some women too. I don't smack anybody, but you know what I mean. Okay. I really digressed there for a second, didn't I? But we all love it. Okay. The other reason I think that I see most commonly reason people are critical, sorry, my lipstick's funky. I hate when I catch little sight of myself in the camera. I try really hard not to look at the camera, but every now and then I'm looking off to the side and I catch myself. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, my lipstick's fixed. The other reason is I think they're insecure. When people judge or criticize, they're letting us know that they're sad, that they're worried, they're in pain, they're feeling overwhelmed. Again, they're feeling out of control. These people sometimes want to feel better by making someone else feel worse, or like, it's not even always just that. They're feeling better because the focus is off of them on something else that's wrong and not them. They don't do this consciously the vast majority of the time, but that's what it is, even though it's not conscious. People who are consistently critical, it comes from low self-esteem or a lack of confidence in themselves. That's what you're looking at. And I would also say that competition falls under this category of insecurity, and being fear-based, because, it might mean like you're competing for resources, for time, attention, money. You might put down your sister to get more of your mom's love. You know what I mean? Or criticize. What I see a lot is a partner who criticizes another partner. And when I really get down to it, it's because they've always felt like they're the reacher in the relationship and their partner is somehow better than them. Or maybe that they're even scamming them on some unconscious level, like an imposter syndrome thing. And so they put down their partner to bring them down to their level so that they won't leave them. I know it sounds nuts, right? Because sometimes people leave because they're getting put down, but that's not what the irrational brain thinks. People do it at work. They undermine other people because of it. So just saying, those are really the two big reasons that people become very critical, or just critical in general. All right, so let's get to our strategies. So I have 5 strategies for dealing with criticism. And the first one is one I've been talking about a lot lately, the check yourself, right? But this is really not check yourself before you wreck yourself. This is really check in with yourself. I said like a lot, I apologize. In a very intentional way, check in with yourself. So before you decide what another person, really means when they're talking to you, it's, they're criticizing me. It's important to check in with yourself first. Are you sure the other person is being judgmental or that they're criticizing you? Is it possible you're sensitive to this person and see all their comments in a negative light? Is it possible that whenever you get to this particular topic, you're very sensitive and see everything negatively? Are you in a bad place or feeling anxious in this very moment, right? If you're not grounded and mindful in a moment, I'm going to say mindful again. I'm saying it. I don't care. I'm going to say it every fucking podcast until you do it. It doesn't matter what I teach you. If you're not mindful, you are not going to get good at this in the way you want. You're going to continually come back and feel like you didn't quite get it. Please download my mindfulness starter kit. I will link to all and put in mindfulness on my website search engine. Oh my gosh, I've done so much on it. It's easy to do, easier than you think, minutes a day. I think it's better even than exercise, I got to tell you, for health, overall health, and being mindful will help you exercise more. So there you go. It is ground zero for being a healthy, happy person in the world. I like that. Okay. Bold statement, Abby. Yes, it is, Abby. So if you're not if you're not grounded, that might be a new word, groundful. I kind of like it. Okay. If you're not grounded and mindful in a moment, you'll likely take any feedback the quote unquote wrong way or, through a negative lens. This type of thing happens often. And I always think of the same sort of reaction. My mom always commented about my hair. And my mom, I've shared here before, was a narcissist, like a real live one, like not clinically, not I'm throwing around the word, but like clinical. And so she would be very focused on my looks all the time, which is probably why I'm so weird with my looks and not trying to see myself and all that. But anyway, but let's not do therapy with Abby today. I have my own therapist for that. Okay. So she would comment on my hair a lot. And there were some days I would literally just laugh. I really would, because it was so outrageous, the things she would say sometimes. It was so blatant. And sometimes I'd even go hug her. I was like, oh, Mom, wow, that was a good one. That was a zinger. That was great. And she would be like, what? I don't understand. Or she would kind of laugh along with me, not really getting it because she didn't really get it. And then other days I would be like, oh, she drives me crazy. I hate it. Or I'd blow up at her, or I'd lose my shit, or I would, talk to Gary about it all day, about how she commented on my hair, or call my girlfriends. You know what I mean? It's the same, it's me. It's me that day. It's always me. It's always my reaction to things. It's always my, where I'm at. Just like it's about them where they're at when they're critical. But the other part is all me. And I think here's what's really key about most of this stuff. And I'll talk about it a tiny bit in the fifth tip. But I'm going to talk about it here too, because we're here, because I'm thinking about it. We tend to only get upset, so either consciously or subconsciously, when we think that what the other person's saying is true. So for example, if someone was to comment that I looked too thin in my dress, I'm wearing a dress, and someone says, oh my God, you look skinny in that. Right? All the women are laughing. All the women right now are listening going, oh my God, it's such a compliment. Yeah, I know. Even if someone meant it in a bitchy way, right? Meant it as a criticism. It's a criticism. I might even blush, secretly feel happy, even though the other person didn't mean it as a compliment, right? However, if that same person came up to me and said I was too fat, I looked really fat in that dress, I'd probably feel hurt and criticized and embarrassed, because my weight is something I notice and think about. Even the hair comment I just said about my mother, daughters are narcissists. It's a thing. We're very focused. We were taught a lot about our looks, and the focus was on our looks. That's very common for daughters are narcissists. And there's so much focus on how you look that you become very self-conscious of trying to be kind of perfect and trying to have a certain way. So when anyone comments on it, or we just beat ourselves up, it becomes a thing. You get it, right? So you can see, that's my issues. It's something I believe. If that same person comes up and says you look too skinny, that's not something I believe I'm ever looking. So I might even think here you go. Here's an easier one I think I've said before. If someone came up and told me I was short, you're really short. You are short. If someone said that to me, I'm not short. So especially not for a woman, even close to not being short for a man. So I would not take that. I feel like, I think they were crazy. I'm like, who's this crazy person talking about my shortness, right? I would blow it off. I would consider it irrelevant. I would not give it a second thought. And I would think it was about them being crazy. Yet again, if that same person came and said, you're too fat, I would be like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. It would be a whole other thing. Even if it was someone I never met before, even if it was someone I didn't care about, when something feels on point, we get weird. If your dad gives you negative feedback, criticism for how you're raising your kids, maybe he's commenting on I can't believe you let your kids just, eat whatever they want, or, we didn't let you kids watch movies back then. Or I have a client whose mom is always saying how, you kids were perfect when, you never cried, when her own kids are crying, so this mom who's now a grandmother is somehow saying that the kids shouldn't be crying. Her grandkids shouldn't be crying because my client never cried. That's criticism. And so you probably would get defensive or angry because deep down you're worried about how you're parenting. We all do. I do. We're all like that. Oh my God, I'm doing it wrong. I'm not doing it enough. So noticing, my point in all this is that noticing your own, your self-perceptions is key when you're dealing with criticism. You check in with yourself and how you're feeling, and then question any beliefs or quote unquote facts that are rolling around in your head. You want to ask yourself, why is this bothering me so much? This will help you evaluate before you respond. If you've checked in with yourself, you can then evaluate your thoughts and feelings before you make a response, before you say anything, before you take an action. So you need to be mindful and, right, you're going to act, not react to what's being said. So if I'm checking in and someone said, and my mother says that thing to me, I might go, ooh, I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling anxious. And then you get a handle on those feelings and the corresponding thoughts, right? Because we feel the way we think. Before you respond, what's yours and what's theirs? Are you responding to what's happening right now? Or is this something old that's getting churned up in you? Since I often would have a different reaction to my mother mentioning my hair, that's clearly not about my mother anymore. That's about me in a moment and how I'm doing. And we've all had that. You know you have. You have some days your partner says something. The example I gave earlier about the pots being not cleaned perfectly. There's times when my client has told her husband, like, oh, hey, could you pay a little more attention to the pot? And he's like, sure. And then other times she says it and he loses his shit like he did. And you're always criticizing me. Because it's about the person in that moment. And whether they're the criticizer or you're the criticizee, it doesn't matter. It's about it's about you and it's about them. That's what it is. Okay. Strategy number 2 is closely related to 1. These aren't in order, but these two are related. You want to bring the other person, the person who's criticizing you, into the here and now, into the present moment of this conversation. And it is powerful. Okay. So here you are in the here and now. You're like, oh, I'm checking in with myself. Oh, I'm feeling a little anxious. Oh, I'm noticing these feelings, right? Now we want to bring the other person along. And you do this by asking kind of 3 main types of questions. So my favorite is, how are you feeling right this minute? If I've done this recently. I was in a meeting with a few men I'm helping a team and I'm helping these guys. And one of them is just after me. He's just, everything I mention, he is not having. He doesn't want any of my great ideas that they've paid me for. So I stopped and I go, hey, I'll call him Joe. I said, Joe, I just want to stop for 1 second. How are you feeling right this minute? Right now as you're talking to me? And he got like, what? And he said, what do you, he really was so confused by feeling question. He got angrier. He's like, what are you asking me that for? Wait, it's better. He said, what kind of stupid question is that? That's what he asked. That's how much he did not want to tell me how he was feeling. Now, and I said, a stupid question I'm getting paid for. What are you feeling right now as you're talking to me? I said, I can guess, but what do you think you're feeling? And he said, I'm feeling like we should move this conversation along and not spend time on these kinds of questions, right? Again, he's answering me with a thought, not a feeling, which is what most people will do. They'll give you some sort of thought about what it is because most people don't even know what a feeling is. Your job is to stick to it. And I said, I'm not moving on until you tell me this is not going to be productive, until you tell me what you're feeling right now. I said, are you mad? Are you glad? Are you happy? Are you overwhelmed? Are you sad? Are you about to cry? I threw out some things to kind of push him a little. And he said, he goes, none of those. And I said, okay, then what? I mean, we went back and forth for a minute and that's okay. Just stick with it. And they'll say, well, I don't understand why we're doing this. And I usually say, I don't understand why you're fighting back so hard. Just say a feeling. It's interesting to me that you're having such a hard time giving me a feeling right now. Just give me a feeling. And then they'll try usually like, I'm fine, I'm okay. And I'll say, that's not a feeling. Give me mad. Are you mad? Or then I'll say, scale of 1 to 6. 6 is you're pissed as hell. 1 is you are happy sitting there. Give me where you are. I'll do that. Any of those will get you, all those roads lead to Rome. Because what you're trying to do, when people have thoughts, keep us out of the moment. Feelings bring us into the moment. And I talk a lot about how we connect with feelings, not thoughts. So here I am dropping into the moment with you. And and this is what happened with Joe. And he said, well, right now I'm pissed because you keep asking me this question. And I said, really? Is that, so just me asking how you're feeling gets you pissed? I said, tell me more about that. Because it seems like an innocuous question to me. And he was like, well, I was fine before. I said, it didn't feel fine before, number one, which is why I asked. I said, but let's even say you were. How did you go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds like that? If you were so fine and everything was great and you were so happy, why would you have suddenly come to over to a 6 on the anger scale from just the last 30 seconds of me asking you how you feel? And then I actually opened up to the group. I said, can anyone else comment for Joe? What do you think? What do you see happening right now between Joe and I? And everybody was right there, like, oh my God, they're in a power struggle. You were already in a power struggle, which is why he's so mad now, because you're asking about, like, everybody saw it. It was not, no one needed to be Freud to figure out what was going on. But what it did, because Joe was particularly difficult, but you might be dealing with a particularly difficult person. Joe kept criticizing me, and I was able to just, and I'm going to use some of the other things other suggestions I have, but when I brought him into the moment, and it happens every time, they're going to take a big breath. They're going to go, well, and that is them engaging their parasympathetic nervous system. That is them coming into the moment. Well, yeah, I guess I'm a little frustrated with the way the day has been going. I had other ideas about what we were going to cover. That's what he said. I was like, oh, tell me more. Like, what did you want to cover? I asked for the agenda earlier. What part do you think we're not going to get to? And then he started to say, well, I feel like we're running out of time and we still haven't gotten to 3 things. Like, it was good. We ended up having a decent conversation. But, this guy's emotional intelligence was so low, he couldn't just stop and go, hey, I'm getting a little anxious. Can I interrupt for a minute? I'm getting a little anxious. We only have an hour left and we have 3 more points to hit. And I really want to get to point 3. Can I just be assured we're going to get there, or can we just talk about, so I can set up my expectations, or can we talk about extending the meeting, or you know what I mean, right? That's the way to do it, not get pissy with me with every suggestion I make, which actually made it go longer. But regardless, do you see what's happening here? The other thing I do, and the other kind of category of question to ask, so you can ask someone again, like, how are you feeling right now? That'll make them drop into the moment, which really helps, puts people's guards down, gets people real. Feelings are real. Feelings aren't facts. I know, I just said it, but feelings bring us into a moment, and the moment is real. I should say it that way. The other thing you can say is something like, I'm having a hard time with your phrasing. Can you say that to me another way? I'm really trying to listen to what you're saying, but I'm really getting stuck. Can you say that again in a different tone, right? So again, once again, keep with this until they're more aware of how they're speaking to you. And then the third kind of way to do it is, and I would say this one last, but I have had to use it in different situations. I'll ask, and this is usually more personal than work, but sometimes I've done it at work. Someone will say something to me, it's very critical, and I just sort of stop, I take that breath, and I let some silence sit there for a second, because usually even that's enough for the person to realize maybe they messed up. But I'll just stop and say, how are you expecting me to respond to what you just said? And usually they'll say something like, well, I was just saying, I thought the front lawn would look as nice as the Joneses' front lawn, And you'll say, and how did you expect me to respond? Like, what, or you can say, or how did you think I would feel when you said that? Or you can say, how do you think I'm feeling right now in this conversation? That's a good one. Do you see all these ways to bring them in? How do you think I feel when you say, I should be parenting my kids differently? When you say my kids shouldn't cry, how do you expect me to take that? What do you think I'm going to do with that information? Do you think I feel good when you've told me my kids shouldn't cry and yet my kid is here crying? Do you expecting me to feel warm and fuzzy towards you? Were you trying to help? And if so, how? Like, what was that statement's motivation? And a lot of times people say, oh, there's no motivation, I was just saying it. It's like, there's always a motivation 100% of the time, even though it's unconscious, for everything people say. But again, you can stop and say, well, you said it, so what do you mean by it? What are you trying to tell me? Because what I hear, you could even say that, is that I'm a bad mom and my kids shouldn't be crying, and that you were a great mom because your kids didn't cry. And you can say it. It's okay. And, but what happens, even if you don't resolve it in that moment, is that people start to see that their words have power and that they should have more care in what they say. And when you do this enough, and I can tell you, work with my mom, I would just keep coming back, keep coming back. I did this a lot. So how did you want me to respond to that? What did you think how do you think I feel right now that you've said that, if I remember at one point after, I'm trying to remember, I don't know. I wasn't even heavy at the time. I don't know. I'm never a skinny girl, but I'm not some big, huge girl. But to my mom, you should only be a skinny girl. And so I remember at one point she said, you're never going to be able to keep Gary unless you lose weight. And, yeah, that feels good. And I used all of this. Like, what are you trying to do here with that statement? Like, I'm curious. And I really was curious. I thought, what the hell? Like, where is this coming from? Anyway, I did that enough that she stopped making those statements to me. She really did. She stopped. I mean, I shouldn't say stop. She went down about 90% in how often those statements happened. And the 10% I could handle much better. So once the person is in the here and now, once the person who's criticizing you is in the here and now, you can, of course, ask some clarifying questions, again, to better set intention, keep you both on the same page. That's when you can do those wonderful collaborative questions I say all the time. Tell me more about X. Tell me more about what you're thinking here. When you said Y, tell me more about what you meant. Can you give me an example of X, whatever they said, so I understand better what you mean? Do you see this? Now we can really start to ask clarifying questions and bring people into the present moment, because criticism is largely, again, unconscious and unmeaning. I'm not sure how to say this well. They're not necessarily meaning to put you down in the way you think. And sometimes people are, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the time, even when they are meaning to put you down, they don't realize they mean to put you down. It's crazy, I know. So, and it's, again, important to remember that the other person's criticism, comments, feedback is about them. It's about their needs, their unconscious drives. It's not about you. All right. Strategy number 3 is to be mindful about what you share. In my experience, people share way too much with the wrong people and then are upset when it gets turned around on them and becomes criticism back. Just because, I don't know, someone's your dad or your girlfriend or your beloved boss or whatever, it doesn't mean they should be privy to all that you're thinking and feeling. I know. I love Gary so much. I love my man. But there are certain things he just doesn't get about me. So there are certain things I don't share with him because he ends up either not commenting and he's holding his tongue, which I hate. So I can see that he wants to. There's criticism in his holding his tongue. Or he says something that dismisses or undermines something I believe in. And the only area this really happens around is my spiritual beliefs. So, I follow Abraham and Esther Hicks, and I read tarot cards, and I believe in my inner being and source and all the good things, right? I do. I believe in all of it. I'm a Jew-boo. I talk about, Judaism. I talk about Buddhism, all the things. And so, for example, I've been reading tarot cards since I was in my early teens, like a tween. And I believe, right, I have deep spiritual beliefs. And Gary does not share them. Gary was raised very kind of straight Christian and without a lot of religious stuff, and he just has none of it. And when we were first dating, I would talk, I do tarot readings, and it's great. And, I'd get a message from one of my spirit guides and share it with him. And he was trying not to laugh at me. And so I realized early on, and I was getting upset, and I thought, why am I sharing this with him? He doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't believe in it or think it's a thing. It's not a secret. I'll say, I was with my friends, blah, 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 and we were doing tarot. I'll say it. But I don't go into details. So it's not a secret. It's just a boundary. These are just things that don't resonate with him. And I have lots of other people who can't wait to hear about my chat with my inner being. So I have plenty of places to share that part of my life. I don't expect him to be all things. I still feel accepted by him, loved by him unconditionally, all the things. And he unconditionally accepts this. He knows it's there. It's not like he is always trying to get me to not do it. It's not got nothing to do with that. He's just has zero interest and doesn't connect with this part of me. And that's okay with me. I'm fine with it. I think we expect, especially our partners, to every single part of us, they have to love and embrace and whatever. He does love and embrace every part of me, but he doesn't have interest in every part, right? In the same way that I don't take him shopping all the time when I go shopping, because I like to shop. He always jokes that men buy and women shop. I don't know if that's just a misogynistic thing or what, but I have noticed I don't even like to grocery shop with him because it is like a speed race. It's like we're doing an ultra marathon or something. Like we are in and out. Hold on, I have to change how I'm sitting. We are in and out, and I like to browse the aisles most of the time and see what food I might like to have that I didn't know about yet or whatever, or remember that we need panko breadcrumbs because I'm in that aisle, whatever. So it's okay to not do everything together, to not share every little thing. I wouldn't ever keep it like I wouldn't say I was, if I'm going out to some friend's house to do tarot readings, I wouldn't say to him that I was doing something else. I was going to watch a movie. I say the truth. I just don't. And he'll usually ask when I come in, he's like, how was it? I go, it was really cool. We had some cool readings. He's like, great. I'm glad you had fun. That's it. So it saves me from feeling resentful and hurt if his reactions aren't going to be what I want, right? Because they're not. So think about what you share, how much you share. I know people sometimes share stuff with their boss about their personal lives or whatever. Like, stop, or you share stuff with your sister that is going to get thrown back at you later. I'm talking about my mother a lot today. I think I should talk about with my therapist about why I'm mentioning my mother so much today. But I was actually thinking about my mom today in a good way. I'm still thinking of her in a good way. I can share all this, and I really had no animosity when my mom passed. I still don't. I think of so many good things about her, and I try to be proud of the things that I did inherit that I love about myself, and how I act in the world. Certainly my kindness to others was a big thing. My mother marched in civil rights marches back when, and worked on councils with African Americans and, Puerto Ricans. And she was very, very involved. We always had people of color in my home. I love all that. So that's what I try to focus on, not the other things. But anyway, there were a lot of things with my mom that I just stopped sharing. Because she inevitably would say things that I thought were very critical and super judgmental. And for years, I'd share these things, in my life, things that were happening, and I'd get this consistent judgmental, judgment, these backhanded compliments, passive-aggressive responses, and it drove me batty, drove me crazy. I'd spend so much time, I would be confronting her or feeling like I needed to defend myself. I was constantly into it with her. And they were tough years, I got to tell you. And so once I stopped sharing certain areas of my life, we were able to have really different conversations and a much better relationship because I didn't feel so defensive all the time. Not sharing parts of my life, it really enabled us to have a lot of peace in our relationship. And again, it's kind of, what I do with Gary at another level in this very small thing. Obviously, my romantic partner, if I was sharing nothing of my personal life, that would be a problem. But, I don't consider my spiritual world, not getting into detail with him. He gets plenty of detail about everything else, And these are things I share with my girlfriends or other people, and it's fine. I have a lot of wonderful people who support me and are close to me, and that's great. The key is not to feel withholding or like you're keeping secrets, because these are those fear-based reactions. Instead, I want you to hold a boundary and feel love. I want you to remember that there are so many things you love about this person, and sharing certain topics just isn't one of them. It's not a place that you come together, and that's okay, right? I know. Okay. Strategy number 4 is you got to start practicing loving detachment. I know it's hard, but I want you to work on loving detachment so you don't take what someone else says so personally. I'm sure you've read Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements. If you haven't read it yet, what's going on? Like, it's been around forever. It's so good. And in that book, he says, don't take anything personally. Nothing other people do is because of you. It's because of themselves. Does that not, do we not get it there? Yeah. Loving detachment means that you're separating yourself emotionally, spiritually, mentally from another person and what they do, what they say, or what they think. And I understand that loving detachment, not just detaching, not just fuck you, I'm out, I don't listen to a thing you say. I mean lovingly, with compassion, warmth, and kindness. When you detach in a loving way from other people's behaviors, from their words, from their criticism, whatever it might be, I get that it's great in theory, Abby, but I know it can be a difficult thing to do. It takes courage, it takes strength to see that, you can be happy no matter what other people do or say. Again, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's very possible, and you can absolutely make that happen. And once you separate yourself in that way, your life is really going to change. So you got to remember you can't control others. I know. I want to. I talk about being a control enthusiast all the time on here. But once you realize that no matter how much you push or manipulate or cajole or threaten, you ultimately just can't really control other people's actions or behaviors. Once you realize that, it frees you to focus on yourself and not them. Okay? That's loving detachment. Then you want to separate yourself from, again, what other people do or say. I don't care if it's your kid, your boss, your partner, your parent, whatever they say or do, that's not you. It's really about learning to accept who others are and find a way to separate yourself emotionally from some of the things they say or do. That's loving detachment. I have an amazing episode, The 3 Steps to Loving Detachment. I will link to it, as always, in the show notes. But you can go on my website and put in loving detachment and you will get that. If you haven't listened to that episode, that's a really popular episode. I highly, highly recommend you do. You could always also search for it on YouTube. You can just Abby Medcalf, Loving Detachment. It'll come right up, the video on it. I highly recommend it. And while you're at YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the videos. It just helps more people find me. And if you haven't yet left, I had 3 amazing reviews that came up last week. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that people who just wrote reviews. But again, there's tens of thousands of people listening and I don't have tens of thousands of reviews. So do me a solid. Please go review on Apple. You can leave a review. It's not that hard, we always have instructions everywhere on the podcast page about how to do it. Or you can rate on Spotify. Or again, if you don't want to do any of those, go like and follow and subscribe on YouTube. Do that. All those things help and spread the word so we can have world peace. Let's do this thing. All right. Number 5 is to practice self-confidence instead of self-consciousness. I was so proud of how I said this. Thank you. It's kind of things I've already said, but I really want to put a pin in it. When we feel hurt about something, it's often because, again, it triggers some unresolved emotion within ourselves, right? So when we feel criticized, it's because of this unresolved emotion with ourselves generally. Like I just said, right? You hurt because you believe what the other person is saying is true. They judge your parenting. It drives you crazy because on some deep level, or maybe a top level, maybe you feel guilty as a parent, you feel subpar as a parent, whatever. That's what that's getting to. Again, if they told you you were too tall and you're, 5'2", you would be like, what are they talking about? So work on building your self-esteem and your confidence, and you'll really notice a difference in how you can deal with judgmental or critical people. I'm telling you right now, it's the magic of it all. Confident people are more positive. They believe in themselves and their ability, right? We call it self-efficacy. They want to live their lives to the fullest. They're not ruled by fear. They're not ruled by self-consciousness and what others think or what they do or what they say. They're ruled by, their own internal compass. And that makes a really big difference in how you react to criticism. I have the 8 ways to build your confidence and self-esteem. I don't remember what episode that is. It's back there. Again, I'll link on the page, show notes page, or you can go, again, search on the website for it or on wherever you download. You put self-confidence and Abby Medcalf, I'm sure it'll come up on whatever platform you're listening to me on. But you know what I mean? Self-confidence is all about how you feel and think about your skills, your abilities, and obviously that can vary greatly, right? I'm not confident in my running ability, but I'm very confident in my podcast ability, right? So you can have good self-esteem and still not feel confident in certain areas. That's fine. But your self-confidence is something a little different, and to build that effectively, you really have to focus on the 2 main players of self-confidence, which are self-efficacy, this feeling that you can do it, and self-esteem. That's what you have to focus on. Self-efficacy, again, is that belief that you can do stuff. You gain a feeling of self-efficacy when you master something and when you achieve goals. So the sweet spot is when something is a little difficult, so it stretches you a little bit, but not so difficult that you can't kind of see an improvement. That's the sweet spot of self-efficacy. So little by little, you move through a little obstacle here. It was a little hard. You got over it. And then you gain that sense of mastery. And this is really how you start feeling good about yourself and your self-esteem starts to rise. I know. You become confident. That if you put in effort and work at something, you can overcome challenges because you have experience. You're gaining that grit, that resiliency because you're pushing through setbacks. You're believing that you can do this thing, whatever you're trying, and achieve your goal. So self-esteem and self-confidence are connected, right? They're intimately connected because when you like who you are, your self-esteem goes up and this makes you more confident. When you're confident in different parts of your life, you improve your overall self-esteem. They're in bed together in beautiful ways. And when you feel more confident and raise your self-esteem, your self-consciousness diminishes. So other people's criticisms stop holding power over you. They stop seeming like such a big deal. And that's really where we're trying to go. And again, I did a whole episode on building your self-confidence and your self-esteem. So go check that out. And there you have it. Those are my 5 tips, my 5 strategies for dealing with critical people. Like all of these things, if you notice, they're all focused on you. Will help you get to that place, will help you get to that place of peace that I talked about in the beginning. So definitely download the Mindfulness Starter Kit if you haven't already. I strongly encourage you to get on my weekly love letter list. I love my love letter. I send it out every week and it's just love. It's love. It's an inspiring little story or something to help you in your week. If you like the podcast, I'm telling you right now, you'd love the love letter. If you go to my website, there's a little tab. It says love letter, put in your email. I'm not going to barrage you with emails. You're not going to get 30 of them a week. You're going to get 1 a week on Wednesdays. Wednesdays in the US. Comes out in the morning. Depending on where you live in the world, it'll come out another time. And that's it. Occasionally, if I do sell something, you'll get a discount code, but you know me by now. That's not my jam is not shoving stuff that you don't need down your throat. So that's not what I do. So join the love letter. I'd love to have you in my community there as well. It feels good. I really love the responses I get to that every week. It feels amazing. And I think we all could use some love all the time, right? So having a dose of love on the podcast, having a dose of love in the love letter every week. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook or wherever where I, put out other information, just trying to, again, keep you motivated and moving. That's my mission. And I love it because I love you and I love our connection. It means a lot to me. Thank you, as always, for spending time with me. I know there's a lot of places you could be spending your time right now, and the fact that you sit here with me week after week, or if this is your first time, welcome. uh, it just fills my heart. My heart is full right now. It's full every time I do this. I do this podcast. So thank you for being part of my extended family. I love you so much and have an amazing week.